I have to wait till the computer goes to 9:30. It's almost there. Yours is 9:31? I'll call this meeting to order and welcome everyone back from the summer holidays, and we will start off with a moment of silent reflection. And I would ask that we remember our past warden and councillor Bill Bilton, as we his dedication was will be remembered a long time. I would ask the clerk for any rise and report from in camera, as well as to introduce our alternate members present today.
Thank you, Warden Weber. First, welcome to our alternate members, Ms. Kingston and Mr. Dennis. Mr. Dennis is the alternate member for our Councillor Bradley, and Ms. Kingston is the alternate member for Councillor Arnold out of St. Clair. For those of you in the gallery, they were sworn in earlier this morning prior to us going in camera session. And again, for your information, they effectively serve as proxies for the councillors for which they act as alternate members for under the municipal legislation. When a county council member is absent for any reason, they can appoint an alternate member as appointed by their own local council to sit at county council and vote as effectively their proxy here. In terms of the in-camera session, we addressed 4 matters. County Council received a report on a personnel matter. It received another report on the status of negotiations for property at the Bayside Centre in the city of Sarnia. It adopted its in-camera minutes of its meeting of July 3rd, 2019, and finally it adopted its Committee AM and Committee PM minutes of August 22nd. That's my report.
Thank you. We have one delegation this morning, Mr. Don McCabe here, and I would ask for a motion to allow delegation to come within the rail. Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Bean. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Don? On the mic and go live. There we go.
Thank you, Warden, for the opportunity to speak here today, and thank you, councillors, for listening to our needed message. And I'd like to start off my day here with the bit of a reflection on where County of Lambton finds itself with this growing season. And for some of you on the bus trip that the Lambton Federation of Agriculture recently held, and I'd like to point out that we have some Lambton Federation of Agriculture directors in the audience, and that's President Sarah Jackson and Vice Chair Gary, excuse me, Gary and George Dickinson also present. And most importantly, for me at least, the MSR for the region, Lambton County and Middlesex, Joanne Fuller from the OFA, because without her you wouldn't have this presentation, which is a wonderful thing to look at because nobody wants to look up here for that much time. The reality of where Lambton County is at here and on our issue of activism is also shrouded by the growing season that we're currently experiencing. And Don Cabas was on the bus trip and gave us a small indication of what he was seeing as a grain trader for one of the largest cooperatives in the region. And in summary, on acreage, our corn acres in this county are down by his estimates by 50%. Soybeans correspondingly went up 30% in acreage, whereas winter wheat did not fare well due to a very poor planting season or planting time to get it in 2018, fall of 2018, and 2019 spring was not kind either. We saw a 65% decrease in acres. The result of these number shifts is means that essentially we're going to see a lot less revenue for the county as a whole from our farmers. And the good news is that your roads are not going to take that much of a hit because there will be a reduced number of truckloads of grain. But you got to remember those truckloads of grain are what is our commerce. And the truckloads of grain that are going to be down is to the tune of 9,507 using the model that he's pulled together. There are also 10,000 acres of unseeded acres, which is pretty well unprecedented in modern times here for Lambton County. And it's an indication of how wet conditions were. And I am one of those people who did not seed any acres. And the reality is right now, and I'm expecting that Councillor Marriott might be enjoying this bounty also, that in the month of August, areas around Inwood received about 9 inches of rain. And that's also unheard of to try and deal with that much water. The overall impact is that Don Cabas is projecting about a $97 million hit to the Lambton County economy in reduced grain sales. And that's at the very base of your value chain. So the reality becomes of what the multipliers are as that moves up through the system. That's $97 million down in base money for the farming community. That is also now an issue of mental stress to the producers that are growing those crops. Some of those guys and gals are doing that's feed for their livestock. That's going to be a stressful situation. They've got to access feed from other sources. The feed conditions from last year, where Dawn was an incident, and that's a disease that impacts corn, is still out there in last year's crop. We do not see evidence of it for this year, but again, we're just going to have a wet soil conditions possibly to harvest with. So this is going to multiply on up through the system. And of course, mental stress is the kind that nobody really wants to talk about, but we have to deal with. So this is where issues are at the farm right now. So let's get into the meat of the presentation. And I know that you've received these slides prior to me getting here today, so that's going to be very helpful. And I don't plan on in dwelling a bunch on the very first parts of these presentations because it's pretty self-explanatory. And the reality is that animal activism has taken a very large, much larger profile in today's world and today's media. These people are coming together to protest the animal agricultural methodologies and practices because they consider any form of animal husbandry to be an animal mistreatment. And the realities of then this mistreatment means that they don't think animals should be farmed at all, should not be used for human consumption, and the protests are getting much larger and wider in scope. And the reality is that we're seeing more and more of this go on, and as with any media event, the first time that man bites dog, it's news. The fourth time man bites dog, well, we've already covered that. We've got other things to do. We move on. I'm not faulting the media, but it is the reality that this is becoming much larger, much more enhanced, and it's adding to the mental stress of the farmers and the people having to deal with it. So we have in the next slide here a number of events that you can see listed, and this is certainly not comprehensive, but the reality, again, of multi-layering of social media attacks where you can remain anonymous but send out your message to someone is playing onto this equation also. And the various methodologies employed by these people include videotape, and that's important to note for later comments in this presentation. But the most important one I want to highlight here is on October 2018, this past fall, Jenny McQueen entered a pork farm in Lucan multiple times at night and on weekends to videotape. She took 2 piglets from the operation. That doesn't seem like a lot, and you just think about 2 piglets. But what is also the issue is these facilities are biosecurity facilities. You also don't know what Jenny McQueen possibly could have done to the feed or to computers or what her counterparts did in there while she was there also. So this is a complete violation of that environment and that working status, and you don't know where it's going to, where other issues could come. With some of the more public events that we see at the Burlington Pork Plant, this is now pretty well going on a fairly daily basis, and Toronto Pig Save has been holding weekly events since 2015. So a trucker pulled up there with a load of hogs to deliver to the plant. The trucker ended up being spit on by protesters who got up on his truck to essentially tell him what they thought the situation was. The trucker was insulted by this action. The trucker gets out of his truck. When the trucker gets out after being spit upon, the police choose to charge him because he lost his temper, and that wasn't supposedly something you should do when you get spit on. I do not share the police's view on that particular matter. In the Jenny McQueen issue, coming back again one more time, this lady has a history of activity in this area, and she wants to draw attention to this, all the rest of it. The real matter here is that the Crown Attorney had actual videotape of this action going on, saw the actual theft of the hogs and the trespassing and all the rest of it. But the Crown Attorney chose to drop the charges, citing no responsible prospect of conviction. And this then led Jenny McQueen to say, look, I did it. If I'd have gone to trial, I would have testified I'd entered and removed 2 piglets, and she was quite happy about that, what she was doing. And that's part of the action here, is they're willing to, as animal activists, to do these actions just to get attention for their cause and keep it alive. In Woolwich, Ontario, earlier this year, we had another event where dairy farmers of Ontario were aware of a possible invasion occurring. At the last minute, the protesters changed their location because they felt that they had been infiltrated in their ranks by someone, and it moved over to this other farm. The reality is, at this invasion, these folks had stolen a dead calf from another farm and chose to bring that calf with them to this farm for videotaping and production capabilities. The Farm Organization of Dairy Farmers of Ontario was well alerted, but at the end of the day, again, police were not able to get there in a timely manner to do anything about it, and there was no real follow-up on this matter. So we've had numbers of hate mails received by farmers, and you can find that as I continue to click here, we have various labels coming out, and the real issue now comes to the lack of prosecutions and convictions, even in the face of incriminating evidence. So what can be done? And I'm very, very pleased to see the leadership that came from Mayor Rombouts and her council in the municipality of Warwick, or township of Warwick, and we applaud this action. And I also applaud the great reference of this resolution, and it's reflected in your minutes that are in your agenda today on the number of letters that have come in. And I would ask that other municipalities who have not had a chance to get this on your agenda yet to please do so and move this matter along, because this is gaining strength in Toronto, where we want to see some of these loopholes closed up and dealt with. On the same token, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture has not sat on its heels. We have put together our own social media aspect of getting activist issues dealt with, and that has been done through our website, and this was the action was done with one of the largest uptakes ever before. So what do we want to see done? Well, number one, it'd be nice to see a Crown attorney actually do their job. And if their job is hampered right now, which we find somewhat questionable in some cases, let's get those things actually done. If you had protesters out front here right now and you got spit on and all the rest of it, isn't this harassment at your workplace? Where's trespass law gone to? Where is the legislative changes to help make this happen? So we're going to be moving very rapidly to get legislative changes addressed, looking for legal loopholes, and that's the need, again, the need for what Mayor Rombouts has initiated with her resolution. We need that strength of conviction, and I understand this was circulated in AMO, and we certainly appreciate that effort too. And at the end of this slide, I note for your record that we're going to be looking for a new offense under the Animal Protection Act to fail or delay of reporting of an offense. The reason for this is back to that issue of the videotape. If it's over 6 months since they videotape stuff, then they're free to use it on their websites, put stuff up nonstop to continue to promote their message. And we now see numbers of things coming out of, again, London Dairy and up near Ilderton, another large dairy operation. It's even happened here in Lambton County with Fran's Turkey. So in closing, I wish to thank you for your time. I wish to ask for your continued support of this by making sure Mayor Rombouts' resolution is continued to be moved through and bring support to it. And finally, thank you for the opportunity to be here. So any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Thanks for that presentation. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Napper.
Thank you very much, Warden. Good presentation, Don. We had an incident here, as you know, back, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We had a barn fire, and they decided to come in and protest, and the man standing there devastated. He lost his life savings pretty near it, and they're out there calling murderer at him. I just think that was so disrespectful. But that isn't an intrusion on the property, but is there laws that prohibit against that? Can you get a law there? It was just almost, they got throwing hot dogs, and they're crazy, these people.
I am not a lawyer, but I certainly profess to have an opinion or two like a lawyer. And bottom line, I usually know that in my head I'm right, but that doesn't make it the law. And the reality of those people choosing to be out front of his property and make those comments, I don't believe there's anything necessarily that the law can do on that. But again, I stress I'm not a lawyer. On the larger issue, of barn fires, I would like to note that we are seeing increased technology, increased methodologies of detecting methane, and also smoke alarms that will work in those environments to maintain the safety for the animals, because we have to remember barn fire is not anything that anybody wants, and it is not anything that somebody just decides, well, okay, great, today we're going to light the place up. It's not even close to that matter. And the reality for the public is to remember all those animals that are there were being cared for and loved by those owners, and you need to respect that, and it's also a stressful time for them. So these kinds of actions are not a welcome addition to any scene, but I don't know what you do about it.
Okay. Thank you. We do have a notice of motion in our item number 15 out of our agenda today, so we'll deal with that when we get to that. And thank you for that presentation, Don. Item number 9 is the adoption of the County Council open session from July the 3rd. Can I have a mover and seconder for those minutes? Deputy Warden Marriott and Councillor Miller. Any questions regarding those minutes? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Correspondence. Item 10, we have a number of items of correspondence from member municipalities. A and B. There's moved by Councillor Cook to receive the correspondence. Seconded, Councillor Broad. Any questions on any of the correspondence? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We have item number 11 is an information report from Corporate Services Division regarding alternate member appointments. This is for our information. Motion to receive, Councillor Loosely and Councillor Bean. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have an item, there is no motion, but the Creative County Committee minutes from March 28th. Motion to receive, Councillor White, seconded by Deputy Warden Marriott. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 13 is Finance Facilities Court Services Division. This requires a motion. There's a request from SWIFT for a loan guarantee, and there's a report in our agenda. And there's a motion at the recommendation at the bottom of that report. Councillor Broad, you move the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Rombouts. Is there any questions on this? Mr. Innes have any comments regarding this? It seems straightforward.
On this particular, no. The one thing that I would note is that, as council is aware, SWIFT had a change in staff leadership. Mr. Barry Field, who is now the Chief Operating Officer, and I'm not sure if he's officially gotten the title of CEO yet or not, but is scheduled anyways. When he set out to let the first 3 projects under this round of approval, he managed to do it a month in advance of the deadline. He has been able to negotiate and finalize an agreement with the province that SWIFT had been trying to put to bed for over a year, and he's now proceeding to put everything in place and advance the efforts that SWIFT has always promised right from the very beginning. So it's very encouraging to see the activity happening, and as indicated in this report, when we first looked at SWIFT, we questioned what was the county going to get out of this, and basically for the $1 million that you as a council have agreed to provide them, they're going to provide $11 million worth of support to local contractors to improve service in and across the county. That's an 11-to-1 multiplier, and I don't think that we would have achieved that without. The other 2 counties that are involved, from my understanding, have also agreed to provide this support, so I would encourage council to vote in favor of this, because I think this is a positive step forward in achieving the goal of trying to improve internet service for everybody in Lambton.
Thank you. Any questions on the recommendation or the report? All in favor of the report? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Item number 14 is committee AM minutes. Chair Arnold is not here. Is there a deputy chair for that committee? Councillor White. would you present this report?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I present to you the minutes for Committee AM from August 22nd, 2019.
Thank you. Infrastructure Development Services, item number 1, information reports received and filed. Item number 2, federal gas tax top-up funds. Item 3, an encroachment agreement in Petrolia. Item number 4, regarding County Road 19. Public Health Services Division, item 5, dealt with correspondence received. Information reports number 6. Item number 7, Public Health Unit Service Delivery. Item 8, motion to have staff meet with Chatham Plant and explore opportunities. Cultural Service Division, item 9, information reports. Item 10, 11, and 12, and 13 are dealing with in-camera. Item 14 is the adjournment. Councillor White.
Thank you, Warden Weaver. I move that council receive the minutes from Committee AM from August 22nd, 2019.
Second by Councillor Broad. I guess there's no other questions. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. PM committee minutes. Chair Bean.
Thank you, Warden. August 22nd, the PM committee met at 11 o'clock. I present these minutes for your approval.
Thank you. Long-term care division, item 1 was information reports. Item 2 was regarding LED lighting project. Item 3 regarding diesel generator. Item 4 was a notice of motion regarding long-term care facilities. Councillor Bird.
I would like to speak on the long-term care once again, and although my long-term care motion was presented to the last PM committee, this is a very serious matter, so I would like the opportunity to explain everything to the rest of council and have them vote on this too. And so if I have a seconder, I will give you the background. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for Councillor White? Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Bird.
So I'll just give a quick background first of all. Over the past few months, I have been contacted by nursing home residents, staff, their families, friends and visitors to share their grave concerns about Lambton County and the long-term care homes. They've asked for help. They need our help, and we have to provide the help that they need. Long-term care residents are some of the most fragile and vulnerable members of our community, and as such deserve the best possible care and concern. Staff was kind enough to send me 3 interesting reports, but unfortunately they didn't contain any action plans to remedy the current situation. Shortage of staff, especially PSWs, and shortage of funding are contributing to a very serious situation at all 3 of the county's long-term care facilities. Some specific alarming cases were reported, but in general, their concerns are as follows. Fear of speaking out and penalties for doing so. Non-palatable foods, some visitors bringing in home-cooked meals for them to substitute. Too many restrictions, lots of red flags. Individuals being asked to sign non-disclosure agreements. Problems with administration. Proper grooming consistent with individual needs. Calls of nature being left too long. Red button calls being ignored. Lack of courtesy and respect. Some family members doing the laundry for the residents. Bad attitudes from staff. And not enough care, compassion, patience and empathy. We can no longer blame the system. We need to be proactive and innovative and come up with resolutions and a new, immediate action plan of approach. Time is of the essence. The immediacy of the need is extreme, and the time for action is now. Therefore, I am asking for a resolution of this council to ask staff to 1. Identify an immediate action plan to deal with the PSW and nursing staff recruitment and retention based on the points identified by HR during exit interviews. Number 2, identify an immediate action plan for improving all communications and care within the 3 long-term care nursing homes in Lambton County. And number 3, create an immediate detailed media release to deal with public perception throughout the county. This matter cannot be delayed for more consultations, meetings, and studies. It has to be fixed now. Everyday matters to people living in a home who are not getting the care and attention they require. The situations that have been brought to my attention are totally unacceptable and have to be changed. Under the required notice of new action plans, it would be required for staff to bring something to the October County Council meeting. Thank you, and I'd like a recorded vote, please.
Councillor Cook?
Just a point of order, Mr. Warden. This isn't the same motion that was brought to Committee B. This is a different motion than what was defeated. So I'm not sure where we're voting on because this is a different item than what we were talking about in Committee B.
I would concur with that. The motion that was at the committee meeting was defeated. You have a different version of the motion. That would probably have to be a notice of motion if it's a different motion, and it would be given and come back at a future meeting. No one has the wording for the motion that you're presenting today.
I understand that, Warden Webber. Because it's such a critical situation and time is of the essence, I have, all the notes are the same, the background information is the same. I have just changed the 3 points that we're asking of staff because it is so critical. And so I didn't want something to be loose and just left till whenever because it is so critical and I have to get back to all the people that have brought this to my attention. So I'm hoping that we can do something today because of the immediacy of this situation.
On procedure-wise, this is a different motion and council does not have the wording of it. It wasn't presented as a notice of motion. Am I correct in that for the procedures?
That's correct. The Committee addressed the motion to CNI number 4. The ask is different than what's in number 4. It is a new item before council, and the procedure that's contemplated under your rules of procedure would ask for a notice of motion specific on the new wording, unfortunately, Councillor Bird, so that you have the opportunity to review that motion, do your own education, and then come prepared for the debate on the motion that's currently before you. So in short, it is different than the matter that was considered by Committee PM. Because it is different than Committee PM, it is a new item, and as a result, as a new item, a notice of motion ought to be presented.
Sorry, so you're suggesting that I bring this as a motion for the October meeting?
I think that would be, you bring that forth, write out the motion. You've read it here, so we'll take that as a notice of motion for the October meeting.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. We'll carry on with the minutes from the PM committee. Finance, Facilities, and Court Services. Item number 5 is an information report. Item number 6 is the second quarter variance report. Social Services Division number 7 is for information. Number 8, 9, and 10 are dealing with in camera. Item 11 is adjournment. Councillor Bean.
Thank you, Warden. I move these minutes as read.
Seeing any other questions, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We do have item number 15 as a notice of motion presented by Councillor Rumbouts. And you would move that resolution? And
Yes.
is there a seconder for that? A whole bunch of them. Councillor Ferguson. Any questions regarding that motion? All in favor of that motion? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. We're on to other business. We have a striking committee report that was, I believe it's been circulated. It's on your desks. The striking committee met this morning and has put names forth. I don't have a copy. So the item number 1 was that they appointed me as chair. Item number 2, that the responsibility of the strategic team be combined under one committee referring to as the Strategic Planning and Provincial Downloading Committee. Item number 3, that the following members be appointed to the Strategic Plan Provincial Downloading Committee: Al Broad, Brian White, Jackie Rumbouts, Bev Han, Deputy Warden Kevin Marriott, and myself. Item number 4 was adjournment. Is there someone prepared to move that? Councillor Cook and Councillor Bean. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the striking committee report? Opposed? That is carried. I believe Mr. Innes has a introduction, comment.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Yes, I'd like to introduce to council Stephanie Harper. Would you like to stand, Stephanie? Stephanie is our new manager of divisional support services. That means that she is going to be responsible for the day-to-day shepherding of the budget process in the coming years. She also will be responsible for internal audit and will be coordinating the quarterly variance reporting as well. So although you will not always see Stephanie in your meetings come in the future, she is going to be doing an awful lot of work in the background to support the information that is presented to you. Stephanie joins us from the St. Clair Erie Lynn. Is that the correct? I never remember the exact title of it. She was with them for 12 and a half years and in a managerial capacity. She is a CPA. She is a longtime resident of Lambton County. And the last time I talked with her anyways, very excited to be here and working for us. So we're looking forward to seeing her contributions for the many years to come.
Thank you and welcome. And it will be challenging times going forward, I'm sure. I also have a memo here from Andrew Taylor regarding Board of Health training. So on Wednesday, September 18th is our council our committee meeting. It's committee meeting day. We're going to conduct orientation for Board of Health members. The session is probably going to take about an hour between the committee meetings, between the AM and PM committee meetings. So details will follow, and Andrew assured me that it would be an entertaining and enlightening time together. Is there any other business? I would remind council of the golf tournament, the charity day, and this year there's going to, the proceeds will be for a scholarship fund for agriculture-focused students in Lambton County. So I would, if you haven't responded to that, and I see Councillor Marriott's hand up.
Thank you, Warden. If I may remind everybody about today's barbecue after the meeting. The numbers are a little light to what we guaranteed the ladies, so you're going to have to bail us out here. There's only 20 signed up, so hopefully there's a bunch more that want to come out. It's not raining, so 11:30 social hour, and 12:30 we eat. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other business? Notice of bylaws. You had something else, Seth? Councillor Knapp?
I just thought, you've probably all read in the paper on Facebook and something, a family out there is honoring a young person that passed away, a 2-year-old boy, and they've got a great display of sunflower seeds, and it's probably brought more traffic and people into Plimpton, Wyoming than we've had since the mayor stood out there to greet everybody. But I just urge everybody to go out. It was such a tragic event, and it's such an emotional thing to go out and look at these rolling fields of sunflowers, and they're taking up a little donation, and I'd just like to, on behalf of County Council, thank the family that put it all on. It's he's a good friend of mine, forgot his name. But they're doing a great job out there. So if you get a chance, it's out on Douglas Line. Drive by, they got a donation box there. Get your picture taken, cut a flower. It's a great evening for the kids. Thanks.
Thank you for that. I've seen that on social media, and it looks like a great event and a great tribute. So, any other business? Bylaws.
Thank you. It is moved by Councillor Loosely, seconded by Councillor Marriott, that bylaws 31 to 34 of 2019 as circulated be taken as read a first and second time.
Questions? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
It is moved by Councillor Marriott, seconded by Councillor Loosely, that bylaws 31 to 34 of 2019 as circulated be taken as read a third and final time.
All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. I guess we're to adjournment. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Hand, Councillor Veen. All in favor? That's carried. See what we get for O Canada. Choir practice will be following the Board of Health training.